Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final session for day two of this amazing CISO Forum 2021. My name is Michael Castro, CEO and founder of RiskAware, and one of the co-chairs for this forum over these 3 days here in November. It is my great pleasure to be moderating this topic today: how to build your cybersecurity network as a leader. It's a great example of a topic that is fundamentally important, I think, and a great area for us to discuss, and definitely a topic not really seen in many of the security conversations that we have in many of the conferences that I have been. So I'm really excited for the session that we're about to have. I am surrounded by members of my network and my peers, Abbas Kudrati, Coode, and Rob Davidson. And with the four of us, we're going to spend the next hour or so talking about this topic on really how networking and working with our peers really is part of being a great cybersecurity leader. But before we do that, I'd like each of our panelists to introduce themselves. We are coming to you from across Toronto, across Canada, and across the globe. Another great advantage of this conference and this platform. So let me start with Kat. Kat, take it away. Give us a couple minutes. Tell us about yourself and take it away.
Thank you, Michael. As Michael said, I'm Kat Coode. I am the founder of consulting company Binary Tattoo, and I am a privacy and cybersecurity consultant. So I spend the majority of my time working with cybersecurity leaders. I am one myself, and I spend the most of my time working with CISOs. I met Michael Castro at the CISO Forum of 2019, and now he and I work together extensively. So there you go. That is networking in action. And I'm super excited, also one of the co-chairs for this conference, to get into the meat of what we're talking about in networking and cybersecurity leadership.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kat. Rob, over to you on the other side of Canada.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come and have this chat. I agree very much with Michael and Kat. This is a perfect and prime example of networking, and it's such a big part of how you get things done in the cybersecurity world. As mentioned, I'm Rob Davidson. I'm the Director of Security and the Chief Information Security Officer here at Pacific Blue Cross. So I spend a lot of my time talking about security and other topics important to the business. So hopefully we get a smatter of all that when we talk about networking and the groups and people we work with. So this is a prime example.
Great. Thanks, Rob. And last but not least, and our global entry on Wednesday now for those on that side of the world, Abbas, over to you.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, everyone. My name is Abbas Kudrati. I'm Microsoft's Asia Pacific Chief Cybersecurity Advisor. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. So how I end up with CyberX? Hey, I'm wearing CyberX t-shirt, as you can see it. All the way from Canada, and this is the power of networking, right? I live and work in Melbourne, Australia, but I have been asked to join the advisory group for this particular CyberX and being invited for these kind of events. That's the results of a good example of networking opportunities. Even though you are far away on the other part of the world, you can still be part of such events and such organization. Doesn't matter if I'm in Canada or not, but hey, we are all global, right? So as a part of my role, I advise most of the CISOs in my area on the strategy as well as how they can get the best value of their investment from Microsoft technology. I'm an ex-CISO, have been a CISO for a number of years before joining Microsoft. And I'm also a part-time professor with Deakin and Latrobe University. I teach a couple of cybersecurity subjects, and I'm also a part-time author. I finished writing one book and right now currently working on 2 other books on zero trust and cyber risk management.
Fantastic. Thank you. So let's jump right into our topic, because I think it's one that is really interesting. Because personally, I take a lot of networking for granted at times. I've spent many of my decades in cybersecurity networking. I don't think I could live without it. But I mean, we're all peers. We are all accomplished professionals. and we've all, reached some great heights in our careers in what we do. So, maybe I can put it out there, why is networking important to each of you?
Who wants to go first?
I
Okay,
bet this is a popular topic. Go ahead.
all right. I'll start. I'll share, and then Rob or Kat can join in. So why networking is important? I believe, and these are the statistics, right? If you look at it, 80% of the job in the market are filled up with the blessing of a referral, and people, other 20% people have to struggle finding that particular role, right? And this is a reality. So that's one biggest advantage of being a networking and who you know in the market. Second, depends upon what role you are, but irrespective of all the roles, could be sales or could be as a CISO, right? You sometimes overwhelmed with so much of work within your own company, and you don't get opportunity to talk to peers. So networking events like this, or any kind of personal event or physical event such as ISACA group or ISC Square chapters and forums like this is a great opportunity to go and connect with your industry peer and make a connection and nurture that connection as you go, because you never know when you need help or want to understand what's going around in your company, or could be a nation state attack going around, or as a cyber attack, and you want to speak to somebody. If you have been connected with that particular in any of the event, you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Kat, I think I'm seeing this kind of event, and I know you are also working in the same industry as I am. Do you have something to advise quickly? Because I'm new on this role, I don't understand." That could be, "Hey, okay, here is what I share it. I will connect you with my SecOps team, and he or she will share you the threat intelligence and IOC. Go ahead and fix it." You are immediately at par. So this is the power of networking, finding a right job, talking to somebody, your industry peer, getting a career mentorship. This is another thing which I always nurture. I have mentors across the world, not only from Australia. I have people from US and all the way from Middle East in Abu Dhabi. I have it, and one from US. This is the power of networking. You can take advantage and get mentorship, coaching in the area, get the right help you need, connect the thought leadership and sharing on that, and help everyone together. I'm a big fan of networking, believer of networking. How do you, Kat or Rob?
Yeah, sure. That's great. I'm going to go on the old adage of it's not what you know, but who you know, except in cybersecurity, it's really both. It's what you know and who you know. And certainly there's a lot of great discussions that are happening over the course of the conference about how quickly things are moving, new technologies, new threat actors. And no one of us can possibly know everything. It's not possible. So to be networked with a group of people that you know are really good at endpoint protection, or really have set up their real network, their actual network, their tech networks properly. So having that collection of peers and support system to say, hey, we're having this issue, like Abbas said perfectly, I don't know about this, maybe you do. Being able to rely on other people and have those discussions. And the other thing that Abbas touched on is it's often lonely at the top. Having even just a sounding board of someone else who appreciates the position you're in, and can be that other person to say, like nobody understands my job exactly as it is, but you do. So is there something I could be doing differently or better?
Absolutely.
It's always tough to answer after there's been such good commentary on both by Kat and Abbas. And I'll just add, because I am in that seat still as CISO, I think, Kat, you hit on something that's critical, which is that trusted group of folks in a like-minded role. And when you're talking to somebody who's actually carrying out something that you do every day and you think about, the opportunity to share best practices and real world conversations is just huge. But at the same time, I think the majority of us are always looking for this opportunity to nurture incoming talent, because we all realize the opportunity for new people to come in with a fresh set of eyes is sometimes the very thing we need. So what I think in a lot of instances is there's some folks who start to think about how do we have conversations, and they go to the same go-tos. But what's great is when you think about networking groups, I think the opportunity is to look at them as this live thing that grows and expands and changes over time. And that's probably, to me, where some of the greatest power of it comes from.
Fantastic. And those are great thoughts. And, you know, we look at security conferences just like this one, which are typically a great time for us to meet with our peers, to have those engagements and have those conversations. But of course, they can happen in other ways too. They can happen in forums, in chats. Heck, they can happen in Zoom calls. I mean, there's so many ways that we get together. So great on that. Thank you. You know, I've been in cybersecurity for more than 20 years. And, you know, I've always said that I never stop learning. And even at my stage of my career, you know, I still learn every day. And one thing about security and privacy, for that matter, is it's never the same day over day or year over year. And we all have to stay engaged in that. I think we've already said that peers are really our great opportunity for us to have that learning opportunity. How have you gone about kind of building that network? What is it that has really helped you to start those relationships and start to build that group of peers that you all talk about so highly as being important in your own careers? Kat, maybe I'll start with you.
Sure. I am a big fan of LinkedIn. I will put that out there. When I see people whose either opinion I value or I appreciate or I think might be a good connection, I always make that effort to reach out on LinkedIn and connect with those people. I mean, the worst case they can do is not accept the connection, and then sometimes you can follow them anyway. But thought leaders are great to find that way, but often you will get people that will connect with you that way. I'm always happy to connect with people who especially are trying to get into the field or are looking to get into the careers and the various careers of cybersecurity and have questions. But it is an effort. It's your network's not going to come to you. You have to go seek out that network. So that's definitely one thing I will say, is to look for those people that you think you could benefit from, and then start to reach out and connect with them and actually make a connection. Like, I had posted on LinkedIn before we started our session, and I said, if you are making that invitation, like, personalize it. Like, you know, I'm looking to get into cybersecurity, or I'm in a like field and I would love to connect so that we can compare notes, because it opens that door for conversation. And mentorship has been mentioned a couple times, and you might actually have someone say, oh, that's great, I'm looking to mentor someone in that space, or I know someone I can set you up with. So it's definitely an effort from the virtual side, from the purely virtual side. Yeah, I would definitely make sure you're leveraging that as a tool.
Great.
Yeah,
Rob?
Sure. I would just add that there's the ability, whether it's virtual or when we get the opportunity even more in person, when you're networking, be genuine in your connections and come across, even from the very get-go. And I've tried to do this, and I hope it's valuable advice to others. If it seems like you're trying to just chip away at building your network and advance yourself, that sometimes comes across as noticeable. But I get requests fairly regularly, and these connection requests sometimes come through where the person's taken the time to put together a suggestion for me or do something that's value add. And those are some of the best connection types that I've made over the long run, whether, you know, it's a legitimate thought or not, or it doesn't have to necessarily be perfect. It's just that notice that somebody's taken a little extra time. And I've tried to take that and internalize it too. As Abbas and others have said, we all have mentors. If I was going to go to my CEO and have a conversation, a level above me for sure, I'd want to walk in and say, I have some value add suggestions, instead of always walking in and say, hey, tell me. It seems to change conversations and make people more open, for sure.
Thanks. All the great points, Rob and Kat. One thing I also want to add is many times you may not find the right forum to get into it. So in my experience, I have created the forum myself. That, hey, this is the area of topic in my interest and I don't see any forum available locally, for example, or regionally. Then I go ahead and create, could be a LinkedIn group, and invite the like-minded people who I want in that group, or could be a meetup group. I'm not sure in that part of the world, but in Australia, meetup groups are very, very famous. There are hundreds of meetup groups on, you name a topic and it's there. Right? So we even create a meetup group and we invite everyone, hey, this is the meetup happening and we have a sponsor from KPMG or EY or Deloitte or PwC who have a fantastic office and they're happy to offer the free beer and pizza. Why don't you come along in the evening and we talk about this topic? Go ahead and do it. So two things. One, you are creating your own tribe or a group, and you're also projecting yourself as a doer and a leader. That, hey, I can create that kind of a forum which could help me in my current role, which could elevate my personal branding. People would know me and all those advantages.
Good points. Now, Abbas, you're in the tech field. Rob, you're in healthcare. Kat, you and I are kind of jack of all trades across the board. And cybersecurity is such a big topic. And of course, when we meet with our fellow peers and when we're networking, are we more inclined, or are you more inclined, I should say, and Rob, I'll start with you on this one. Are you more inclined to look to meeting with peers in your industry and in your field, or are you more broadly looking across the board on cybersecurity as a whole?
Yeah, what a great question. The reality is it's hard not to gravitate towards folks in your vertical, because eventually you build up kind of a core set of folks and you end up going back to those same folks, kind of as I mentioned previously. But I try hard to go through and look at two things, and I have a couple of suggestions on this front. One is just the general breadth, as Kat pointed out, of cybersecurity knowledge across so many different disciplines and so many subject matter expertise, and just where people have a passion around a certain area of cyber means that I want to get that cross section. And then interestingly, I've also noticed that sometimes it's the cybersecurity professionals in verticals that I don't necessarily deal with right away, or I don't think are key or priorities for us, but end up in the long run being really great connections. For instance, long ago, before people were talking IoT, we started having, much to Abbas's point, sort of a security clutch, if you will, here in Vancouver, about folks thinking about the hardware side and what would eventually become IoT. And those sort of connections, although originally they seem at the outset or the outside of your periphery, those are some of the best and most interesting and compelling folks to continue to stay connected with over the long run.
Abbas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yep, absolutely. So again, my own experience, there are 2 or 3 groups or networking groups I am very active. Others are more from learning opportunity. For example, the CISO. I'm passionate about my role, and I've been an ex-CISO, so I always write. I create blogs on that topic and all. So if there is a CIO CISO forum, that is what I will give first priority, and that too locally. Second priority I give them because I'm big time into mentorship and I love students and I teach as a professor as a part-time. That's my hobby and I like to give back. So anything with students, and especially I'm more connected towards the ISACA chapter. So I'm an academic coordinator for ISACA Melbourne chapter, and I have started at least 3 ISACA students chapter for 3 different universities. So I'm very passionate about that area. So I always give priority to that. Others will follow based on some emerging interest, or if I see some great topic on threat intelligence and I haven't attended any of those forums, I'll go and sign up and go and meet those people as well, just for the cross collaboration point of view as well. So it depends upon my area of interest, but as I said, priority is always 2 or 3 forum very active. Others, if time permits and if I'm of my interest.
All right.
And I would say if there's one characteristic to all of us in cyber, it is that wanting to learn. It is that ever growth of knowledge. We have to, because everything, again, changes so continuously that we have to always want to learn. So I do find myself joining groups and trying to meet people who have expertise in areas I don't have. But one thing, especially coming from the privacy side, is all data that's sensitive is the same. And I feel like some of these vertical lines are going to start to blur because we had HIPAA has great security definitions in the US, where we don't have good security definitions in Canada. But those security definitions should be the same as PCI DSS with financial information, because it's equally as sensitive. And now, like, GDPR has done a beautiful job, if people aren't aware, of defining what is considered sensitive data. And that includes other things like your gender or sexual orientation or religious beliefs, which in some countries could be a life or death situation if they were being made public. Again, the sensitivity of that data is going to be equal to the health data, is equal to the financial data. So I think not looking from a vertical perspective of say, hey, I've got healthcare information or financial information, but I have data that's important, and it's important to the individuals that I need to protect. And so from that perspective, that network could be anyone in the business of protecting sensitive data.
And that's a valid point, Kat, because I think, we all have our comfort in our zones and our expertise in our zones, but really it's across the board where, we look to find those similarities, and where our peers and where we network, where we can gain those values that and access to information that we might not have had. Kat, you had kind of made a comment on the peers, and I kind of summed it up on, we have those level set of peers, we have those peers that we ourselves are looking up for those expertise, and of course we have those that are level down, those that are looking to us as those experts. How do you balance, kind of the value of that peership, when we have things that are across the board in different levels, both as a learning for ourselves and us being the learner?
Well, that's a good question. I've always liked the philosophy, which works in marriage, it also works in partnerships, where you always expect to give 60% and take 40% back, and then that way, if you end up giving 60, you're never disappointed. And if you end up getting more than 40, you're always happy. So I like to kind of live my whole life by that. So I try and give back more information than I get. And then that way, again, when the information comes back to me, or whatever it is that comes back is appreciated. But I think when we aim to give more, we end up actually getting more than we think we will. But right. Yeah, the current unemployment rate for cybersecurity in Canada anyway is 0. We really need to mentor, and Rob put it so beautifully that the fresh eyes have great opinions, but we need to tell them where we want them, and we need to build the leaders, because we've got lots of wonderful entry position people, and we need to make sure we find those that want to also be in leadership and elevate them. So I would say if we focus on that, then the balance will come.
All right. Anyone else with thoughts on that?
Yep. I mean, great points. What Kat has shared. So giving, I'm a firm believer of giving back, right? So I give example of students mentorship, and the only reason I give back, actually many reasons, but this is based on my own personal experience when I was struggling to get into a cybersecurity from IT. And working in India, I did not have too many mentors or opportunity to go and network and get some kind of a guidance from people. And I'm talking about 20 years back. Now the things have changed, and information technology and social networking has made it so easy. So I try to balance it in terms of how much time I spend on giving back. And usually when you are on the position where I am, kind of working for a big company like Microsoft and having a good decent title, you get bombarded every day. So I had to now stop my connection request button on my LinkedIn and make a follow, so you can follow me. But if you genuinely wants to connect with me, send me an email detail what is it, and I will find a time, of course, and give you appropriately based on your request. And I have an online calendar. There's some of the good practice I follow. I have an online calendar which I share out the link, and go and book half an hour slot maximum. That's what you can book it, and I decide which week you can book it. So that way, it's win-win for everyone, considering how busy the work is, balance work, family, as well as give commitment to the ongoing activity in terms of giving back to those students and anyone who wants to discuss either the career coaching or cybersecurity or having a problem with the studies and things like that. In turn, I get it back as well. I get a good talent pool. So when I need somebody fresher, or somebody is asking me in my peer group that I'm hiring, I recommend, hey, I have met this guy. He has taken mentorship from me, and I know his skills, very, very eager to learn. And these are the area of interest. Go and talk to him and connect each other. Everyone wins-win.
Abbas, those are some great points. And of course, we all have day jobs, in our own capacities. And, networking is literally another job. It is a fundamental part of our job, an extension of what we do in the normal course of our days. But you have some good points there. And Rob, I know it was one of the things that we had talked about, kind of offline, is that need to know how to disconnect and how to set those boundaries. Abbas has kind of set, kind of his boundaries on that. Is there anything else that works for you in try to helping, balance that work-life balance that we all struggle for, of course, to start with, and now kind of that work and networking balance at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is there's, 24 hours a day, they say, and we could spend forever just trying to split up our day. I like the way Kat put it, and I won't share the 60-40 split in case I'm on the wrong side with my wife, but I try to certainly do that, which means it's family first and then work, and then it's a lot of other things. The reality is there's a lot of these other things, including networking, that, as you point out, it's a constant effort to do this. However, you can become good as a boss, and I really think for a lot of folks, after a while, you want to disconnect. For me, it isn't so much disconnecting, it's time boxing some of this appropriately. Realizing that, yeah, I could spend forever just having conversations, and I enjoy these conversations. It's an amazing thing. If you just look at this session, there's no shortage of desire for the folks on here to talk, which is not always thought of technical or cybersecurity folks. I mean, we want to and enjoy talking to one another, but you really have to set, like so many things, priorities around it and kind of time box it to the point where you think, all right, I'm going to move away from that for a little while, get away from networking. Or another suggestion I have that's kind of interesting for me, there's other things other than cybersecurity, which is an abomination for this call. But CyberX is doing a great job driving us to talk about a focus point. But we all have other interest areas. So on LinkedIn, if you look for me, there's a whole section just about other interests that sometimes it's just refreshing to look with a different viewpoint on a different topic for a while. A change is as good as a rest. But yeah, it's a constant thing to stay connected, but worthwhile to do it, because if you lose those connections, it's hard sometimes to regain.
Great input. Thank you, Rob. So, in privacy and cybersecurity, we have acronyms for everything. We have BYOD, we have MFA. What about FOMO, the fear of missing out? Is there ever a piece where you think, or maybe those that in your network are trying to be networking, trying to work with their peers because of the fear of missing out? And what I mean by that is, is there a concern that not being engaged actually has a negative impact on somebody by not knowing what's going on, by not understanding the topics and the direction of things? Is that anything that plays in to your mind when you're in that networking space? Kat, let's start with you.
Oh, well, I think the other men have alluded to, I mean, my fear of missing out is fear of missing out time with my family and time to sleep and time to look after myself. There is a balance here. I think we all kind of box. I do the best I can in the time I have, and I can't spend my energy worrying about what I'm not doing. So I don't think, for me, the fear of missing out, of being connected or missing an event or whatever, I can't factor that in, because I can only do what I can do. So I think, again, as everyone has alluded to, making the efforts is important. But there will always be things happening. There will always be the internet is always on and always happening. So there will always be groups to talk to and forums to be a part of. You make a decision to say, hey, if it's an hour a day, or when you feel like it, to check all your messages and answer people. But no, for me, I don't think there's that element of I'm missing something, because it's a fire hose and I'm just going to drink out of my glass, and then one glass at a time.
100% agree, Kat. I mean, we are living in an information age, right? There's so much of information everywhere. If you try doing that, you will be, like, as you said, drinking from a fire hose. You will never be able to quench your thirst. So you have to balance in a way what I want to take it, one glass at a time, one sip at a time, and go on. I can again give my personal example of how Microsoft is a great company. global company and having a regional role like I have, I get so many meeting invites, and sometimes I feel, oh, I need to attend 6 o'clock early morning meeting and 10 p.m. in the evening meeting. I can't. It's not possible for me. And I sometimes I do get a feeling that I'm missing or fearing out, but you have to move on. It's not possible for you to attend every damn meeting available or every information session you have. You move on and learn as when it is required. So sometimes informations are there, but you may not need it at this point of time, and you can always find it when you actually need it. So you might have to balance it out that way rather than going and attending every damn networking forums or every damn conference what you have. You will never be able to do that, and you will get fired. I can tell you. I remember 10 years back when I used to try to attend 2 such conferences in a month. My boss said, I'm paying you for doing work, not attending a networking event and conference. Go and do it after 5 p.m. if you want. And that's where the small meetup groups and Isaka events, which runs during the lunch hours or early breakfast meetings or evening sessions, they're much better for it. But yeah, don't request too many of the full day conference to your manager. You're going to piss him off or piss her off.
But Abbas, I don't think he allowed for the global time zones that you apparently live in, right?
Absolutely.
I would just add to that, and this is some of my experience trying to think back. Michael, I'm like you. I remember back to the start of security, it seems, and growing up in that era when at some point we're all junior. And being junior, sometimes it's tough to talk to senior individuals. Mm-hmm. And I've had a few times where I feel like I wasn't comfortable, either talking to senior security people or senior business leaders for that matter. And they have this tendency, especially at live events, to kind of cluster together. And you sit on the periphery wishing that you perhaps said something. And I know I've had career opportunities where afterwards you eventually get to know that person and say, I wish I'd talked to him or her at that event. And when you do talk to them, the first thing they say is, you should have come and had a conversation with me, because we would have had things to talk about. So I encourage folks. I mentioned how there's a lot of folks obviously here who are extroverts and happy to have conversations on Zoom. Sometimes it's tough to put yourself out of that comfort zone, but that fear of missing out is that you can miss some good conversations if you don't push yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
those are all excellent points, and we have to keep that in mind. So we look at it in that we can't be everywhere and networking 24/7 unless you're Abbas, apparently, because he's able to do everything at all times. So kudos on you. But at the same time, we also have to look at it on the other side, where we have to not be afraid to get engaged. And that segues well into my next question for everyone. And it's really, I know personally from my side, the mentoring, the networking with the younger generations, the up and comings in the cyber and the privacy fields for that matter, really, I think we all have a piece of that as part of our networking and part of our commitment to our field. What drives that? What is it that makes each of you, and Rob, I'm going to start with you on this one. What drives you to want to get engaged with those younger enthusiasts, or the ones that are really looking to you and feel like they are gaining the most by having you in their network?
Yeah, that when you think about it, there's two things. One, I get as much as I give, and I think I get even more by participating in mentoring or trying to help people, because you create sometimes wonderful lifelong connections that are super, super valuable. But in particular, there's a lot of folks out there who have interesting and unique ways to solve some problems. They just haven't necessarily been given the opportunity in some instances. So one of the big value adds that I try to help with is those difficult conversations. As Kat pointed out, there's no shortage of jobs. The tough thing is the first job. And so sometimes I sit there and think about, well, I remember when talking about, how you get into a field or how you do stuff. And it's a tough conversation, because there's no substitute for experience, but there's also a lot of opportunities to bring folks in. And I try to do that when I can. And have days of internships, or have one of my team members be willing to give them sort of a day in the life of, or connect them with others so that there's volunteering opportunities around cybersecurity for smaller organizations. They can't necessarily hire their first person. Those sort of things are really good opportunities, I think, to offer some suggestions back to people who are just getting going. And that alone, when you hear about some of the things these folks do down the road, seems to be one of those things that to me is of great value.
Abbas, what about you?
No, absolutely. Again, Canada, Australia, we have a huge shortage of skill set, right? So one of the biggest advantage of working with students and mentoring them and coaching them is to find their first job. And many times they want to understand and always lost because I teach cybersecurity. The very first, when I ask, okay, what kind of position you're looking for after finishing your graduate and master's, and everybody raised their hand and said, I want to become a hacker or a pen tester, or ethical hacker. For them, cybersecurity is pen testing. Then I give them a whole picture that, hey, this is not the only job available in the market. There are 20 different disciplines, and these are the 5 or 10 upcoming areas of opportunity which you can study as a part of your current course. And they said, okay, I didn't know that. And that's where, okay, this is where your networking comes into play. Go and attend the IT audit forums, go and attend the threat intelligence forum, go and attend the red team forums, go and see and talk to people, what they do and how they do. There are heaps of such opportunities. So it's like connecting to a bridge the talent with upcoming opportunities, giving them back with that kind of information, helping them to find right opportunities. And in turns, you learn as well many things, as many of you said, they come with the fresh ideas and all. When we share a problem, they come up with a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at that particular problem, which really helps in joining the dots. And as Rod said, volunteer opportunities, there are so many CISOs in Australia who are constantly looking for when they join a new company or as a new role, all of a sudden a lot of work has been given and they don't get approval for hiring people right away as soon as they start a job. So and they know me and I always help them, they reach out to me saying that, Abbas, I am on a new role, I need people, I have so much of work to be done, but I don't have people as well as the budget to hire right away. Do you have any students who can help me out? And I connect with them. Okay, these are the 3 people who are super interested in governance, risk, and compliance. This is the work you need. Go give them a guidance. They will pick up immediately and they will help you. You need hands and eyes and minds, right, to do that. So win-win for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much value in the students and the younger generations. And I say that, sitting in the seat that I sit in, but there's so much to learn there. And personally, I look to the value again at the various levels of the networking and the peers that are in them. And there's so much value, I think, and I think everyone here agrees, on those younger up and comings have so much to give as much as we see at our own levels and our own looking for that experience, at our level and above as well. So thank you all for that question. We live right now we all know, right? We live in this pandemic and it has changed so much the way that we are doing our networking. Hey, I mean, right now we are in a virtual hybrid model where we are networking using this tool and this great platform with CyberX. But really, how has it shaped the way you have done your networking? Has it changed things, or is it just a different flavor of the way you've always done the network? Kat, maybe we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely changed things for me. I used to like to work a room. I used to like to go from person to person. Although I will say, just as an extra aside to Rob's point where he's like, oh, there's lots of extroverts here. I'm actually an introvert. I am an outgoing introvert. I am happy to introduce myself to someone. I will walk, and Michael knows, I think I did that. I walked across the room and introduced myself to you. But given the option to be home in pajamas and reading a book, or out in an event meeting new people, I am pajamas and a book every time. So it might be a matter of getting out of your comfort zone to be in person. And so for a lot of people, being in this kind of environment might be easier for them. It might be easier than being out in a surrounded by people you don't know. How do I approach them? Often, like you said, with cyber exchange, you can approach someone one-on-one and not have to physically walk up to them and say, excuse me, and ask for their name. Like, so there's elements of this that we really have to appreciate. I know we had a great session on neurodiversity, but there's elements of social dynamics that's not always easy for people in real life. So I do prefer a real life introduction. Like I said, I'm outgoing. I like to go say hi to people. So I have actually found the pandemic quite difficult. And the most people I've met is been on panels, and fortunately I'm able to be on a lot of them, but not everyone is. But I like to look again for ways that we can leverage other communication methods. And maybe again, we are providing for people that didn't thrive, that used to sit in the back corner of a conference and not talk to anyone. Maybe this is a good avenue for them. So maybe virtual again is providing some positives in a different way.
Rob, do you see it similar to that?
Yeah, absolutely. With the exception of the extrovert conversation. I don't know, Kat, that's hard for me to believe. But the reality is, two interesting things have certainly been my observation. One is there's a set of conferences that used to be somewhat cost prohibitive that now, because of pandemic, open themselves up to very low cost barrier of entry, or sometimes even free opportunity. If you think of big cybersecurity conferences, or interestingly, even other conferences that are adjacent to. And if you're in this field, you probably have a quest for learning and keeping your skills up to date, whether it's privacy or whether it's cybersecurity proper, or maybe it's just a conference on AI and data. There's a chance to engage in so many of these sessions and meet people and certainly have good ongoing conversations just because you were open to something new, that I don't think necessarily I would fly to a conference and be there in person if I'm not sure that it's going to be something of great interest to me or a team member, but I'm certainly willing to open up a Zoom session and see how I feel about it. So I think it's been beneficial that way for sure.
Now we say that, you know, the pandemic has opened up these global opportunities. Abbas, I think you're a prime example. Here we are in a conference. You're on Wednesday morning, coming into noon, I think, on your time. Where here in the Eastern Zone, it is quite dark, and you know, we're getting ready for primetime television. You know, has that changed the way that you've been able to attend these? Has it opened up the you know, the opportunities for you to do more or do different networking than you traditionally have done?
I'll give you an example of today, particularly 10th of November, Wednesday. How is my calendar looks like? So today morning, I attended a keynote for a Gartner conference happening in Melbourne. It was supposed to be a physical event, got canceled because of pandemic, and they converted into that. So I attended that. Now I'm attending this one, which is in Canada. After this, immediately in next 20 minutes, I have a keynote presentation in Malaysia in one of the cybersecurity event where Microsoft is sponsor. And in the evening, I have another roundtable to attend in Bangkok. So in a day, 4 different countries. I don't think I can do that physically in a physical mode. Having said that, it is really overwhelming as well. In a day, 4 keynote and presentation to be made, sometimes it kills you, to be honest. So it is overwhelming. But if I was traveling, I would have picked up Bangkok for today and been there, attend the whole day event and relax and come back after a few days. That would have been a choice of mine. But I love, as I said, scale wise and meeting more number of people. Virtual world and pandemic has really helped that. But I'm a big fan of a one-to-one meetings and small group roundtables and forum like this, where we meet, where we connect, and we continue the relationship for a longer period of time, rather than a big mass audience where you go, we are just a person sitting at the back and just go away. You know, so one-on-one relation. Physical connections, physical meetings is my number one preference. I don't have a choice, but that's where I take advantage of virtual world, because it's everyone. I'm not the only one who is moving towards, because it's a global thing, and that's why we are doing a virtual one. Otherwise, my preference is the physical one.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, it is a world where we have spent so much of our careers, I think all of us, you know, attending those physical conferences, picking those ones that we can go to. Like Rob said, you know, some of them that might be cost prohibitive, or we have to stick to our geographical areas or our time zones even. And here, we have different platforms, we have different cost factors. We can go and watch 10 webinars a day if we want to, and have 10 different conversations. It really has changed. But a quick roundtable, because I'm going to, kind of give you the three options. Tell me which one you like the most: physical on-site, LinkedIn as a networking tool, or online conferences like this. Kat, which one?
I think physical on-site is the most effective.
All right, Rob.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough to beat an on-site connection.
And Abbas, I taking it
Physical,
that your
of course.
thumbs up kind of meets
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely is a world where I think we're missing a lot of that, and there's so much value in that networking experience, that one-on-one, that face-to-face. We're all face-to-face right now, but we don't see our audience. We don't get to network that with them the same way that we can in traditional. But definitely there's so much value in these different models that all of us have explored and have all have utilized over the last 20 months. Last official question before we go through a bit more. Networking is, I think personally, a very fulfilling piece of my job. I thoroughly enjoy talking. Many of us here are public speakers, or we've had sessions. We're all here today, speaking about networking. So we're networking about networking. Quite fulfilling. It's a lot of work, though, to really stay on top of those connections, those LinkedIn chats, those emails that you get, those different conversations. Is there a way for you even to quantify any of that in terms of effectiveness? Is there something, and Rob, I'll be going to you first, is there something that you can take away or suggest is a way that you find, measures the success of your networking, measures your satisfaction of your networking, or even measures something that says, hey, I'm glad I'm doing this?
Well, that's a tough question, not just a good one. That's a tough one because I haven't seen too many KPIs, the performance indicators around networking and the way we do that in business. Although I don't want to say that too loud, otherwise it'll end up on my next scorecard. But the reality is, I think it is a little less tangible. It's one of those things that it works well, probably when it doesn't seem like a tremendous amount of work to do, but gives you some sort of satisfaction. And I know that's a tough answer for some folks to accept, but some of the best things is that two-way street that's created through networking. The satisfaction of helping somebody and knowing that you did that, I think is tremendous. And the fact that in some cases, the quantifiable benefit that I have seen where it might be more tangible is when you're faced with a problem that you probably couldn't have solved in a timely manner, and you put it out to your community, whatever that community is, and get a whole slew of great answers. That's one of those benefits that's just measurable for sure, because at the end of the day, you probably see, I wouldn't have come up with that solution or that particular viewpoint on something, and that's one of those drivers for me.
Abbas, what about you?
I think Rob has summarized it very well, but if you look at from a commercialization point of view, because many vendors are doing this as well, but CyberX is more of a community driven. But if you look at many vendors create this kind of forums and conferences and all, for their KPIs, okay, how many people I got, I was able to invite it, and how many people have attended, and out of them, how many leads I generated, because it's more from a lead generation and connection point of view. I want to have a one-on-one meeting after all those people or a CISO who attended my roundtable. That's the advantage. But personal front, I want to I want to measure it in a way which Rob has mentioned. Right? What did I get out of the session which I attended? Was it valuable? One, for personal, for second, from the professional point of view, and third, was I able to give back anything to the community which networking event I attended? So it's two-way street. But as Rob said, there is no sure solution or a KPI or a KRI kind of a thing where you can measure the effectiveness part of it. I would say don't attend everything you have been invited to. Pick and choose based on your priority. And as I said, it's not possible to attend every networking event you get into it. But sometimes when you are looking for a change of job or want to meet somebody from the attendance list, you see, hey, I've been trying to catch up with this person for a networking event or mentoring session. I think this is my opportunity to go and attend this event, and I would be able to break the ice and have a one-on-one connection if it is a physical one. And I have used that technique many times in past, that I want to meet Kat, and always hard to find her time in her diary. And I know that she's one of the keynote speaker in this event. I'll go and attend the event. I'll sit in the front row, and as soon as we finish, I'll go and grab her. Hello, I'm the one. I want to talk to you. So that's way.
Very good.
I agree. I mean, it's hard to measure, and there is no KPI. But I think if you set a goal for yourself, depending on what that would be like. So if you're going to a conference of any sort and your goal is, like Abbas had said, I am going to go meet this person. That's my goal. That would be the ROI for this. If I could just meet this person, then that will have been a good return on that investment. That's great. Yep. Or I'm going to get the names of 5 people. I'm going to connect with 5 people. I'm going to find 1 person above me and 3 people below me. Whatever that is, you figure out what brings you joy. What is it that, and maybe it is you just want money, and that's fine. But if, like, what is it that you're looking for? Set that goal and go in with that goal. Like, I'm going to make 3 new, real, honest, and I love what Rob said, genuine connections. I love the genuine connections on LinkedIn as well, right? So like, make 3 real connections this month, then your time will have been worth it. So I think you need to set that.
Yep.
Fantastic.
And you want to take part in the raffle and win a new iPhone or Xbox, which you don't get in the virtual one. I miss that.
I missed the swag. Although we did get good swag for this conference. Thank you guys.
Lucky you guys. I'm waiting for my swag. Still in the transit, looks like.
It's coming.
So Rob, I've captured here to create a KPI for you for your scorecard around networking, and we'll see if we can get that onto your plate.
Remember, we can end networking connections too, Michael.
Very valid point. Very valid point. So I'm going to wrap this up. We're going to do a kind of a round table here, 60 seconds. Abbas, I'm going to start with you. I know we've talked about a lot of things in this session. I think they've all been fantastic. So I'm going to ask each of you in 60 seconds to kind of wrap up what is your advice in terms of helping our peers get involved in the network, whether it's to get started into networking, to take that first step, or to get the value out of it. In 1 minute or so, can you give your thoughts on today's topic?
Absolutely. So networking is an essential part of today's business, professionally, personally, career-wise, as well as from the business point of view for all angles. Be genuine when you're sending a networking request, as Kat mentioned. Be genuine and honest what you're reaching out. But at the same time, if you don't get a reply after sending the initial message, don't get upset and create a feeling that, hey, Abbas is too arrogant and he's not going to reply me ever. Attempt second and third time, because what happens is after this kind of forum, I get 20 such emails, and it's not possible for me to reply everything in one shot. So be persistent. At the same time, have that kind of understanding as well, that the other person is genuinely could have been busy time of the month, busy time of the year, or on the holiday or a break. Go ahead and try again after a few months and see, hey, are you seriously interested? This is why I'm reaching you. This is what I wanted, half an hour time from you. Let me know when you are available in the city or in any of the forum. I'm attending this forum. I know you are speaking. I want to connect with you after the event if possible. Be kind of that genuine. So I'll stop it there.
Kat, over to you.
I would ask yourself what your biggest pain point is in your job. And so is that I don't know how to find talent? Is that I never know who to ask on their opinions on vendors, or I don't know how to train people? Figure out that pain point and then look for a network of people who could support you with that pain. So I know Michael and I are in a group for virtual CISOs. It's a Slack channel. People are always posting questions, and it's so wonderful to see the community come together. Hey, has anyone used this phishing tool? And then you'll get 10 people that say this one's actually better, or this is good for big companies, this is better for small companies. So figure out what that pain point is for you, and then and if it's just venting to a peer, then you can find that in your network too. But look for what it is that you're trying to solve.
Great. Rob?
I would say, I mean, certainly Abbas, Kat, those are probably the most key points. The thing that I think about too, and it might go back to somebody who's early in their networking process as much as anything, but along with mentorship, there's people to model yourself after where you've looked at the work they've done and you don't have to recreate the wheel. Ask somebody what's been successful about networking for them. It's not always the tough technical questions that are the things that sometimes are so beneficial. As mentioned, maybe it's venting or giving feedback on a Slack channel, but if you go in and sort of look at the history of where people have done things before, it's certainly valuable to take some of those best practices and apply it to networking as well.
Great, all great points. Cat Coode, Rob Davidson, Abbas Kudrati, thank you to all of you. Truly appreciated you spent the time with us today. And of course, for all of you, you can reach out to any of us and network with us on Cyber Exchange, a great platform. The tool is there, we're all reachable, and it sounds like all of us are open to conversations. Yep. With that, we're gonna finish off our last session for today of day 2. Remember, we have one more full day of the CISO forum tomorrow, starting with a bunch of great sessions throughout the day, full pack. We hope to see you all there. Until then, wherever you may be, good night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good night, folks. Nice meeting you all.